2. Still trucking through this season with the Tennessee Titans. Going in week 5 to
Cincinnati. Cincinnati. Not Cincinnati.
To take on the Bengals. Their quarterback, Achilles Smith, who is surprisingly actually very good in this game, which is just an example of how sometimes games don't imitate real life.
Paul Brown Stadium in Cincinnati, Ohio, going on the road for the 5th game of the season to take on the vaunted Cincinnati Bengals. The Titans, they're 4-0. The Bengals, they're 3-1. It is an intra-divisional clash, and yes, they were in the same division at this point. This is with the days of the old AFC Central. I know I pointed that out last time, but we've spent so much time in this modern divisional system, you forget just how gigantic, number one, number one in terms of how many teams there were, the AFC Central was. And then also just in geographic scope, how big and how many people were able to fit into one little AFC Central across the entirety of the Western, and not even the Eastern and not even the Western American Football Conference. There were like 6 teams all across, not even in the Central Range, though. You know, the Chiefs weren't there. They were in the AFC West. So anyway, regardless, Tennessee's taking on Cincinnati. That's the long-winded point I'm trying to make, and this could have potential later on down the road, meaningful impact on who wins the AFC Central Division, because these are both good teams in this game. And I know the actual 2000 Bengals weren't good, but anyway, we get up here. 4th down here is forced because Steve McNair couldn't get into the end zone right there. So I do the dumbest thing, and I have our good boy Neil O'Donnell throw to El Del Greco, who is open and makes the reception, but cannot quite fight for that extra 5 yards. And so, it is Bengals ball. It is 7-0 instead of 10-0, instead of 14-0, or any of those. And Achilles Smith, in this game, isn't a total bust and failure like he was in real life. He's actually really good. At least in this franchise, he has progressed at a rate that is inhuman to anybody who is Achilles Smith. And Peter Warwick makes the reception there over the middle and just kind of scampers for an inhuman amount of yards. It's just unbelievable. I cannot believe that this Cincinnati Bengals team is this good, because the 2000 Bengals were horrible. Terrible. 2001, they were bad as well. 2002, they were bad as well. They really weren't a good, even a remarkably good team until about 2004. Eddie George here going around the outside and scoring, as he do. So it's 14-7, so the Titans have the lead here in the second quarter. But still, it is unbelievable just how successful this Bengal offense is. And you can watch right here. 3 things are a factor in this. The number one is the obvious understanding that Corey Dillon is a really good running back, and everybody's always known that, and because it is true. He has a Super Bowl ring with the Patriots. That's how it goes. Also, fake the punt here. I'll point that out. They totally get me. The thing that doesn't make sense is how good Achilles Smith is in Madden 2001, and how good both of their rookie wide receivers are. So they're really just like a really good offense. Very hard to stop, and our defense just isn't that good. So they tie it up right there, and then Steve McNair on the run fumbles. And so, it being 14-14 going into the half, look what Achilles Smith does. Finds Dugans, that's the other rookie wide receiver I was talking about. Peter Warwick was the other one. And they go for the field goal right here. And it goes right down through those uprights. So it's 17-14 at the end of the second. Again, this is the Cincinnati Bengals football club based in southern Ohio, who I think had a top 10 draft pick like 4 years in a row because they were very bad and drafted a terrible quarterback in Achilles Smith and also stuck with him for too long. Robertson manages to chase down Peter Warwick right there, so he doesn't get within the 10-yard line, the 5-yard line. But look at that picture of Peter Warwick that they have. Probably the only one they had, and he's wearing a hat, and they just had to blur out, not even blur out, just like color, like matte color out the logo on the hat. I think that's hilarious. That's one of the weird things that Madden 2001 has to offer. Peter Warwick making the reception. He can wear as many hats as he wants when you score touchdowns like that. So they're up 10 points on the undefeated, up to this point, Tennessee Titans. So we have to score. I would say we have to score a touchdown on this drive. Steve McNair escaping pressure. I think this is 3rd down, and he gets the first down there. 3rd and 3. We go to the pass. I throw to Carl Pickens. He doesn't make the reception. Almost intercepted right there. And Eddie George, though, on 4th and 3, saves our asses once again. Steve McNair doesn't have anybody open downfield, so we use the legs. I'm surprised I took as long as I did to run out of bounds right there, given the earlier fumble, but whatever. Eddie George now to the outside, gets stopped, but gets the first down. So it's 24-14 at the end of the third, but the Titans are driving. 3rd and goal now. This is crucial. We go to Carl Pickens, and Carter breaks it up with his butt, pretty much. And Del Greco does make this field goal because it's very close, and his baby leg is able to make the connection. Javon Curse, basically, I make him sprint around the outside. Grochi just knocks a couple dudes over. I thought he was in danger of getting the first down there, but he wasn't, so he forced the punt. And this is the key drive. We now have to score a touchdown. We cannot go for the field goal right here. Derek Mason, I'm trying to make anything happen. I'm getting like 6 Bengals to chase him around, and we do get, a decent return off of that. That is a valuable return. That is a valid return, all right? And Eddie George gets us the first down, as Eddie George is wont to do. Eddie didn't have a bad game. He had a very good game, actually. He had about close to 200 yards in regulation. In the game. No spoilers. We throw to Carl Pickens right there at the goal line, but he can't get in. So we have a minute and a half to get into the end zone to tie the game up, but we're just going to do it right here. We had it. I thought it was Eddie George. It's not Eddie George. It's Isaac Byrd, who you may recognize as the 5th wide receiver, an alumnus of the good old University of Kansas. And he scores. Achilles Smith. It is so hard to say Achilles Smith in the context of him doing anything positive because he was so bad for so many years. Finds Grochi right there over the middle. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that guy's name right. That's just how I know to pronounce that name. So they get a field goal try at the end of the game. Achilles Smith let him down. That's not even a 2-minute drill. That's a 1-minute drill. So we got Pelfrey right here. He's just got to sit at the line, wait for the clock to tick down, and kick the field goal to win the game for the Bengals. And he doesn't. It goes wide right. So we go to overtime. The Bengals, who have been in control this entire game pretty much, needed to make one field goal, got themselves in position to win, and you know what happened? They did not go through. At least they didn't go through with it right there, so we do go to overtime. Tied at 24. And so, by some miracle of fate, we have a shot to win this game in overtime. we choose to receive. And here on the first play, Eddie George gets about 7. And then on this play, Eddie George gets about 55. Jukes a guy right out of his pants right there. And he's gone off to the races into the end zone. The final score is 30-24. We get the win in Cincinnati in surprisingly dramatic fashion. That's how that goes. We're 5-0 after 5 games. Amazing.
Week 6, we head back home to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars, who were very good at this point in history. If you remember, in 1999, they won 14 games and lost 3. Well, they won 16 games and lost 3, all 3 of them to the Tennessee Titans. So they'd be looking for revenge in 2000. Let's see if they get it. Mark Brunell, Keenan McCardell, I think Fred Taylor, a very high-caliber Jacksonville Jaguars squad taking on a very high-caliber Titans squad. Probably the 2 best teams in Madden 2001's AFC. Maybe not the real-world AFC, but 2 very high-caliber teams nonetheless.
We return home to Tennessee, to Nashville. I know it's a suburb outside of Nashville, but whatever. We're in the Oiler uniforms, the throwbacks. I do feel sort of weird, but whatever. I know the Oilers were a Houston thing, but they were a Tennessee thing for like 2 years, and nobody really cared until they were the Titans. But still, we got the right to wear the uniforms. They were the Oilers at one point, and Keenan McCardell has the right to score a touchdown on the opening drive right there from Mark Brunell. One of the underrated quarterbacks. One of the guys who gets forgotten because he made his bones coming in the middle of a decade, and really ending his career in the middle of the next decade. So, well, it didn't end his career, but regardless, you had about a 10-year stretch of 95 to 2005 when he was at his best, and that doesn't sell well when he's not a 90s quarterback. He's not a whatever the next decade is called quarterback, much like Steve McNair. So a lot of people forget about Mark Brunell, but he was very good for a very good amount of time. With the Jaguars, he was a lefty, he could run, he was mobile, he was kind of like a Steve Young or a John Elway type, not bad guys to get compared to. Samari Rolle turning on the speed to stop Kenny McCardell, also at 7-7. I should have commentated a little bit about the fact that we scored a touchdown, but regardless, the Jags have the ball back. This is back when the Jags were a good team. Mark Brunell thrown into a guy's shoulders. You got to turn around and look at the quarterback at some point if you want to make receptions. But that's good for me, so they have a 3-point lead here in the first half. Steve McNair now dropping back to pass. We roll out to the right. I thought I was about to get sacked right there, but I somehow find Eddie George miraculously over the middle. He was like wide open for that entire play too, if you go back and watch that. But regardless, we make the reception, and that's all that matters. Doesn't matter how what would we say, unfocused, unpolished I am in running this game. 3rd and 6 now. We got to get the first down, or we're gonna have to kick a field goal. But we get the touchdown, the unforeseen third choice to Frank Wycheck in the powder blue. What a catch right there. Just a great catch. Turning around, making the reception in the end zone. So it's 14-10 at the end of the second. The Jags probably the best team that we have faced so far. Just in terms of a full team, their defense is probably better than our defense, and our offense is probably about the same level. PS2 controller does the dumbest thing of all time, because if you move the analog stick even a little bit, it makes you like the right analog stick. It makes you do like that weird targeted like icon passing. It's so weird. I don't like it, and I don't recommend that you do it. But sometimes it defaults to it, and sometimes it leads to that. Yancey Thigpen got 1 foot in bounds. We make the field goal. I'm like 20 seconds maybe behind here. Godfrey making the interception. Now I am on track. I am in sync, and he's running that back. That's almost a touchdown, but not quite, unfortunately, yet. It's a good thing we have a guy like Eddie George to punch that into the end zone. And so, what was a very close game at the half has been run over by a very good Titans team. Spoilers, fourth quarter goes the same way. It's 24-10 to end that one out. And that will lead us to 6-0.
For the 7th game, we head to Maryland to take on the Baltimore Ravens. We're undefeated going into this game with 6 wins under the belt and 0 losses. Of course, in the actual 2000 season, the Baltimore Ravens won the Super Bowl. In this game right now, they are 1-6, so not exactly favored. Just about everything that the Titans do here is better than the Ravens, except for the run defense. And that is a factor because the Titans are a very heavy run offense. So we see how this game goes. 2 teams that match up in a very interesting way. Fun game to play, I'll just tell you right now.
In Baltimore, taking on the Ravens, Priest Holmes, back when he was a busta. Back before he was good, the Ravens defense, back when they were dominant and winning Super Bowls, as you'll see in these plays here. Eddie George starting the game off with a good run right there, but look at how the defensive line, I think that's Tony Siragusa of the Ravens, does here. They've got, he just pancakes a couple dudes, and I know pancakes isn't the word, but I don't know football terminology, I'll be honest with you. I'm a very casual viewer of the game, so plays like that are genuinely exciting to me, and I'm surprised by them. Qadri Ismail, I think that's Qadri, that's one of the Ismail guys, it might be Rocket, I think it's Qadri. Anyway, he scores. That's the important thing. Tony Banks is the quarterback. It's not Trent Dilfer. This is also back when, I guess, Tony Banks was good. He may never have been good. I don't know. I don't know a damn thing about Tony Banks, to be honest with you. I'm not even close to the sorts of information you would want on the Tony Banks oeuvre. Eddie George getting the first down there. We know he's good. 2nd and 3. Go back to Eddie, and he gets slammed down by... Shit, was that Banks? Was that Jonathan Banks? I think that's his name. Anyway, he's got a name, and I gave him one, so if that's not Jonathan Banks, that's your name now, boy. And Steve McNair around the right side, diving for the first down, and he gets it. So it's 7-0 at the end of the first quarter. The Ravens offense just dominant as my throat tries to kill me, as it always does. Steve McNair getting killed by Sharper there, the outside linebacker, but Aldo Greco making the field goal. I was really critical of Aldo Greco in the first video, but he was just fantastic in the second video here so far. He's been pretty much unbeaten. He has not missed a field goal yet. Derek Mason fumbling right there. So what had been a good defensive stop turns into a bad special teams play, as is wont to do. I am a Kansas Jayhawks fan, after all. That's all we know is fumbling punts. And we give to Priest Holmes, who, as I said, was not good yet. It would be about 3 or 4 years until he was in Chiefs red and gold before he would actually be a really good player. Well, maybe 2 years. I shouldn't say 3 or 4 years. They go for the field goal right here. I don't know who their kicker is. I think it's Matt Stover, but he makes it. Regardless, Trent Dilfer, the holder. Okay, I thought I was like, shit, was Trent kicking? No, he doesn't kick. Anyway, they have the kickoff here. We need something. We just need anything, quite frankly. And I'm... Wait a second. Do you guys hear that? Like something in the distance? Like what's that noise? Is that... What? Oh, Isaac Bird. Oh, Isaac Bird? Oh, Isaac Bird. Oh my god, Isaac Bird, the wide receiver from the University of Kansas, who scores here on a a kickoff return to give the Tennessee Titans some goddamn life in a game where they had none. We're waving the wheat out there in Tennessee. You know what? And if a Jayhawk scores a touchdown in the goddamn National Football League, that is some tearing down the goalpost style celebration that we get here. That is exactly what happens. So, what was a dead drive and a dead first half leads to this. The Ravens getting the ball back, some life for the Titans here in the first half, all done away by the fact that I can't defend a goddamn pass to save my life. And that is a touchdown for the Titans. Look at that, 222 passing yards for Tony Banks. That's more than he had in his entire career, I bet. Anyway, 17-10. I'm really sorry, Tony Banks. I just genuinely don't know if you were a good quarterback or not. We give to Eddie George right there. He gets stopped at the line. I do a horrible pass. Bad decision. Bad read. Threw it into like quadruple coverage there. Lucky it wasn't intercepted. Sam Gash, the fullback. I think he was a fullback. I actually don't know. I think he was the guy... one of the last real fullbacks, notably one of the last great plays he made in his career was a 30-yard run where he actually turned around to hit a guy and stopped running forward for a little bit. That was he's just a great guy. Anyway, we get the kick right there. No, we don't. That's the other team. Matt Stover, I was right about that. We got some great commentary going on here. I make a read here, though. Eddie George going there. Takes the safety off of Yancey Thigpen, and he makes the reception. That is what you call a pre-snap read. We give to Eddie George up the middle, and he gets stopped. It's 20-10 at the end of the third. So, we need 2 scores. We need to get 2 scores, but we have the ball and we are driving. Kind of shades of the Bengals game. Am I right in Yancey Thigpen making that reception? And it's 17-10. So now all we need is a field goal. We just need to get the ball back. And after that, after Yancey Thigpen dances while we are losing, which is never a good strategy if you don't want to get, ridiculed for the rest of your season, at least if not the rest of your career. He scores right here, dances on the road too. Anyway, this is a video game. It's not real life. Tony Banks goes, makes the reception there. Oh, is that Shannon Sharp? Yeah, I think that's Shannon Sharp. Anyway, he gets up to the 35-yard line for a first down. 1st and 10 here. Banks over the middle to Johnson, who makes the reception. 3rd and 6, he gives to Priest Holmes. Remember, this is before he was good, and he doesn't get the first down. So, with the Ravens up by 4, they kick a field goal to at least ensure that it will be one score that will decide the game. We have to get a touchdown here. I mean, we would have had to get a touchdown otherwise. I push Derek Mason out of the way with Isaac Bird, and I don't get the same return. But I make a crucial mistake here. I thought I stepped out of bounds, so I put the controller down, and that was a bad move. Anyway, McNair here, trying to drive the offense forward through sheer force of will. He's had a good game, and he finds Carl Pickens right here on the right side. Pickens has a wide open track to the end zone, but he fumbles, and the Ravens recover. And that is the end of the game. We are handed our first loss of the season to Baltimore.
After a loss, we had only slightly, is that south, I think, to Washington, D.C. to take on the Washington... That's right. All right. Taking on D.C. United here after they left the horrible raccoon-filled stadium of RFK into their new FedEx Field. This is a couple years after that, but I will never resist taking a shot at RFK Stadium, much like D.C. United. That was actually sort of a compliment.
We head to the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., where in the fall of 2000, everything seemed to be going stable, and nothing really bad really seemed to happen. And taking on their football team, whose nickname I have forgotten, and we're going off trying to get back on the winning ways after losing in the state of Maryland. We're about to win in the state of Virginia. That's what I'm about to say. I wonder if we even went home to Tennessee. I wonder if we just took, a bus down to Virginia. Or I guess it is. Is this in the district itself? I don't know. Anyway, Samari Rules smashing their man Westbrook. I don't know his first name. Carl Pickens. I know his first name and his last name because he is all over the field here today in D.C. taking on, I think, the Bullets? Anyway, Eddie George scores in the end zone with that awkward Madden 2001 dive where he just sort of falls forward like your dad doing a belly flop at the pool, embarrassing you and getting everybody else all wet. Alexander makes the reception right there over the middle. Brad Johnson, who, this is hot take, pretty decent quarterback, I would say. Very good quarterback. I think he had a good career, overshadowed by the fact that he played on a couple of bad teams and played on, oddly enough, one of the better teams ever in the 2003 Buccaneers. Stephen Davis, I don't think was that good, but he constantly destroys me in every Madden game. It happened in Madden 2002 when I did that franchise there as well, back when I was playing with the Giants. God damn. Anyway, he is not... I don't remember him being that good. Anyway, Bruce Matthews just smashing everybody in his wake, leaving a trail of destruction and death for Eddie George to run through right there and score in D.C. and high step into their end zone. 74 yards for Eddie, tying a record, or I think breaking a record for my PS2 at the very least, there, or at least my memory card. Brad Johnson steps up, throws into the end zone, just making a great play. James Trash, as they called him when he was in Philadelphia, because the Philadelphia fans hated him. Eddie George, we're making that same read. Do you remember that read I did last time? Now, the other thing that can happen is that the safety doesn't cover Eddie George, and he's just wide open and can make the reception and score a touchdown right there, as he does, to end the second quarter, and we go into the half well in the lead, as opposed to, well, I think we were tied, actually, at that point. I think it was 14-14, 28-21, rather. I was completely wrong. Wow, I'm honestly amazed by that. And we still get the ball. So it was 28-21 at the half, a close game. I drop back like 30 yards with Steve McNair. I find Carl Pickens. Who else? For the first down, we get up to the 5-yard line. We head to Eddie George, and he gets into the end zone. So he's going to dance. Everybody's doing the same identical dance. It's almost like this game was developed in 2000 and did not really have a ton of dances to put in. They got to develop more dances for a damn football game if I'm going to score this much as I am with the Tennessee Titans, like here with Eddie George. And we get the win, 42-21, a 3-touchdown game, not even close. And we win there to head to 7-1 at the end of this video. Thank you. I'll see you next time.
Oh my God.